Take a look, it's in a book. Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow. Hey, I've been here again. And this time I thought I'd do something just a little bit different because, one, I'm a Ravenclaw, and two, it always, except for last time, but it almost always comes up at game night, invariably. What have you been reading lately? So, and I usually don't have an answer to that because I need to make more time to read. Even though I do read, I don't read enough. And I'm sure 99% of the people on the planet don't read enough, or they want to be reading more. If you can't read a book a week, you should be reading a book a month. If you can't read a book a month, then yeah, that's not enough really. But yeah, people need to read more. I need to read more. So these are the, I think I've loaded up 10. I wanted to do 10 books that I've either read recently or am in the process of reading or are up on my to read list. So here we go. And we're starting off with my friend's book, actually, Space Rogues. I have finished this. This is a nice little hefty book. Most of them are e-copies on Amazon, so you can check out John Wilker there, Space Rogues. He's up to like 10 in the series, and I'm not that far along, unfortunately. But I was able to order a physical copy. Boom! Quick read. No offense, there are a few typos that I noticed, but yeah, being a teacher, you know, you notice that stuff even if you don't want to. But it's a fun read. It's very fast-paced. You won't want to put it down. And yeah, you should definitely check out Space Rogues by John Wilker. So that's number one. Let's see. One that I am currently reading is Vampires in the Lemongrove and Other Stories by Karen Russell. Okay. You can see the author of Swamplandia, stuff like that. So this is a collection of short stories, one of which was, there was a high-level class and they were reading a book of short stories, and Vampires in the Lemongrove was one of those stories. So I just popped into my head one day, probably during 31 Days of Castlevania, vampires and stuff like that. It's like, hey, why don't I get my own copy of Vampires in the Lemongrove? And little did I know that there was an entire collection of short stories here. The Seagull Army descends on Strong Beach. That was pretty interesting. Reeling for the Empire was very interesting, and a little bit of horror there. So yeah, I'm 3 stories in. Just you know, take an hour before you go to bed to unplug, read a book, a physical book. Try not to use an e-reader because that will still keep your brain awake, and the ultraviolet lights and all that good stuff. Hey, gamer health, right? But reader health. Boom, there you go. So yeah, Vampires in the Lemongrove, pretty interesting so far. Look forward to the rest of those stories. Something else I'm in the process of is also a collection of other weird stories. You've got H.P. Lovecraft, The Call of Cthulhu, and actually I don't like to read this before bed, just in case it prompts nightmares and whatnot. But Dagon, The Statement of Randolph Carter, Facts Concerning the Late Arthur German and His Family. I think I finished all of those. What's next? The Festival is next. So, wow, The Rats and the Moles. I'm kind of, what, at least a quarter of the way through this. But, yeah, this is actually my friend Mike's book. The goal is to finish this and give this back to him, even though he says he doesn't want it back. But yeah, so even the back says the 20th Century Horror Stories Dark and Baroque Prints, attributed to Stephen King. So there you go. If Stephen King approves this, then if you're into horror and science fiction, you should definitely read it. Also, I read somewhere on the internet that the average American is only exposed to, at most, 7 Shakespeare works in their time, or in their lifetime. So I was thinking, yeah, you get Romeo and Juliet in 10th grade. Hamlet was 12th grade, or was that? Yeah, maybe. Was it? I don't even know. And then Othello, I think, was a play I saw at my university. So, anyway, so yes, I'm still in the forwards, but King Lear is up next on my Shakespeare to read list. And the reason why I like Penguin books here, you can see Penguin Shakespeare, is because they have general introduction, they have chronology of his works, introduction, the play and performance, so notes on various performances of the play, and yeah, I think it's just a little bit dusty in here. And further reading. So they give you notes and like preview notes for reading. Then you read the play, The Tragedy of King Lear. And I think where a lot of people try to go wrong is they read Shakespeare line by line, or they try to read in iambic pentameter, and it's written in that way, but you should just read it like a proper novel and continue reading. Don't stop at the end of each line. So this gives you the proper work. Some other publishers, they'll print the real version next to sort of a translated or updated or modernized version, so it's easier to read. But yeah, whatever floats your boat. And then an account of the text, so you go back and there's all sorts of notes. There's commentary. And yeah, so I very much like the Penguin series for Shakespeare, and if you can, try to read more and get exposed to more. And let's see, in a future reading, we've got The Player of Games. This was recommended to me by a friend and former co-worker. Sort of a trend there, but so interesting science fiction here. I need to get on this actually. So master of every board, computer, and strategy. And they're going to try their game. The winner becomes emperor. So yeah, this should be totally up my alley. And sounds vaguely similar to another book I'll talk about in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. And finally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 up, 5 down. Not finally, because I got 5 more to talk about, but we're gonna go talk about the Andromeda Strain a little bit. I read this a long time ago when I was on my Crichton kick, thanks to Jurassic Park. And my mom got me hooked on that, so we ended up getting this massive tome of 6 of his first stories, and yeah, this was one of them. In fact, I think it is the first story. And the reason why I have this copy is because it was much cheaper than shipping, or much more time efficient than shipping, and because the Andromeda Evolution came out, and I wanted to reread this before reading the new novel by Daniel H. Wilson. And yes, you can see my eyesight isn't exactly going bad, but I'm using my smartphone way too much probably, and that is affecting my short-range vision just a little bit. So the smaller fonts or the weird colors on off-colored backgrounds, sometimes I'll have to check. Well, obviously not this because that's huge, But yeah, sometimes I'll have to take a minute and slow down and just make sure I am able to read what I'm able to read. So, Andromeda Strain, pretty good. And we'll check those out here, hopefully in the next few weeks or something. Next up on the list, something very different. And this is Dragon Ball Super number 9. So, as you may or may not know, the Dragon Ball Super anime stopped after the Universe Survival arc, but the story didn't. And I'm still kind of waiting to see if they actually continue the series in anime form, but if they don't, then I'll pick this up, start the Moro arc, and there's the Galactic Police arc after that, and then Granola is Destroyer of Worlds or something like that. So there's 3 major arcs so far after the Universe Survival arc. But this one sort of spans them both. You can see Ultra Instinct Goku and Jiren on the cover. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to start that. And this is a good way to study Japanese. That's how I was studying in university, because during the summer I would grab some Ranma or whatever other manga I had. And it was a slow process, but you'd write down each of the kanji, look it up. Okay, and some of the words are specific only to that series. So you learn those over time. It's like, okay, I recognize that, and okay, that means that, and it's just the name of the martial arts skill or whatever they're using. So it's important, but not as important as the functional vocabulary and grammar, which you do pick up as well. And yeah, so definitely looking forward to that. What else? I'm obviously not reading this, but it is representative of what I should be reading as part of my major. So, Foreign Affairs. This just happens to say Obama's World and his foreign policy record in October 2015. Obviously, I have some of these on the shelf, and I've actually migrated them to work. But yeah, some more modern versions of this. But it provides good insight. It's essays. If you are, looking for publications, why don't you try to submit and see where those go? You've got, or this one has, why municipalities are the key to fighting climate change. That's 116. I don't know why I jumped way over there. Okay, so it starts off with the main topic, Obama's World, what he gets wrong, him in the Middle East, Asia, the China Challenge. Okay, so, it's very topical. Obviously, if you're going back in time, you might not want to use this, or they would be considered, what they call them, secondary sources. They're not primary sources most of the time. But still, Foreign Affairs to keep up on the academic side of world events, or watch the news, as you should be, even though it may be depressing at times. So, Foreign Affairs, good stuff to read, and yep. So yeah, obviously we've moved out of the fiction side and into the more academic side, but this is the second language task-based performance theory, research, and assessment by Peter Skehan, I don't even know. Akira Toriyama, just in case. Ian M. Banks, obviously William Shakespeare, if I didn't mention all the authors before. But yeah, again, so if you're gonna be an educator, then you've got theory, empirical work here, task-based instruction, modeling second language performance, integrating complexity, accuracy, fluency, and lexies, and then influence of planning and task type on second language performance, reflections on planning, stuff like that, and testing and assessment. So it hits all the major notes here in this one book, and models of speaking and the assessment of second language proficiency. So there you go. Read this just to shore up on some of the stuff I need for work. And finally, this was recommended by the game Triple H himself, Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. So, the tactics of routines and habits of billionaires, icons, and world-class performers. So, very thick book, as you can see. But, read that. And, as always, you want to reassess what you're doing. Assess your own performance. Try to get better. On the shoulders of giants. So acknowledgements right there. First, how to use this book. Okay, so there's some health chapters, it seems. You know, kind of a little bit of self-help, but yeah, interesting. So yeah, this will be a good read too. And, you know, just proves that I'm not all about fiction or science fiction and fantasy, even though, you know, most of my channel is games, and you would tend to think so, and, well, I would tend to agree with that. But yeah, so those are 10 books I've either read recently, or I'm in the process of reading, or are next up on my to-read list. So let me know in the comments, what are you reading? Or better yet, make a response video. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, keep reading and have a good one.